The air in Beijing was crisp that morning when the first rumor broke out. Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo have moved in together. The internet erupted. Fans couldn't decide whether to scream in excitement or disbelief. But what they didn't know was that behind those tall, ivy-covered walls, a story far more beautiful than anyone imagined was unfolding. A story of peace, laughter, and quiet love that could melt the hardest hearts. After years of endless rumors, interviews, and hectic filming schedules, both stars had reached a point in life where fame felt heavy, almost suffocating. Wang Yibo, known for his cool and composed personality, had always craved freedom, the kind you find not in crowds, but in the calm of home. Xiao Zhan, ever warm and grounded, sought simplicity, a place where he could paint, cook, and be himself without flashlights chasing him. It started as a dream, a quiet conversation after a late-night dinner. The two had just finished shooting separate projects and finally found time to breathe. Sitting by the window of a dimly lit restaurant, Yibo looked up from his cup of tea and said softly, "I want to live somewhere far from all this noise. Somewhere quiet." Xiao Zhan smiled, his voice barely above a whisper. "Let's find that place together." Weeks later, they disappeared from the city's radar. While the press speculated about new projects and secret travels, they were actually scouting locations on the outskirts of Hangzhou, near a lake that mirrored the mountains like glass. It wasn't about luxury, it was about peace. The house they eventually chose stood on a gentle hill, surrounded by maple trees that turned fiery red in autumn, a place where no one would think to look for them. The home itself was a masterpiece of intimacy and taste. Designed with large windows, sunlight poured into every corner, illuminating wooden floors and walls lined with art, some of which were painted by Xiao Zhan himself. A grand piano sat near the living room, where Wang Yibo often played late into the night, the melodies soft and comforting. On one side of the house, a small art studio opened onto the garden, and on the other, a mini-skate ramp where Yibo practiced while Xiao Zhan watched from the kitchen window, laughing every time he fell. Their days followed no schedule, no scripts, no rehearsals, no pressure. In the mornings, the smell of coffee and freshly baked bread filled the air. Xiao Zhan loved baking. Yibo teased him constantly about the flour smudged on his cheek. Sometimes they'd go out to the garden, barefoot, tending to the small vegetable patch they had planted together. Tomatoes, peppers, mint, and sunflowers. Everything seemed to thrive under their care. One particularly magical evening, when the sky burned orange and the cicadas sang in harmony, Xiao Zhan picked up his camera and started taking photos of Yibo as he leaned against a tree. "Don't move," he said with a grin. "You look like a dream right now." Yibo smiled, his usual calm breaking into a rare laugh. "A dream that cooks better than you," he teased. The camera clicked again, a moment frozen forever in light. But what really made their new home special wasn't the architecture or the location. It was the feeling. The laughter echoing down the hallway, the quiet glances over dinner, the way they'd sit together in silence, completely at ease. There was something sacred about it, a world built from trust and care, away from the chaos of fame. Of course, word eventually got out. Fans began piecing together clues, similar backgrounds in their photos, a matching lamp scene in both of their live streams, the same style of curtains behind them during separate interviews. "Are they living together?" someone posted. Within minutes, social media went wild. But instead of denying or confirming, both stars remained silent. Their silence only deepened the mystery, and somehow, it made everything more poetic. One day, a few lucky fans spotted them shopping quietly at a local market. Xiao Zhan wore a baseball cap low over his eyes, while Wang Yibo followed behind with a shopping basket full of vegetables. They looked relaxed, happy, normal. One fan later wrote online, "It wasn't like seeing celebrities. It was like watching two people who finally found their peace." At home, they had little traditions that meant everything. Friday nights were movie nights, where they'd sit on the couch surrounded by blankets, arguing over what to watch. Xiao Zhan always wanted romantic comedies. Yibo preferred action or thrillers. Most times, they'd settle for something in between, and halfway through, Yibo would end up resting his head on Xiao Zhan's shoulder, fast asleep. Their home became a canvas of shared memories. A wall near the stays held Polaroid photos. Yibo skating under the rain. Xiao Zhan cooking breakfast, the dog curled up between them on the couch. Every photo was a quiet testament to a bond that words couldn't describe. It wasn't about drama, fame, or the world's approval. It was about finding home, both literally and in each other. One rainy afternoon, lightning flickered across the sky as Yibo stood by the window, watching droplets race down the glass. Xiao Zhan walked up behind him, wrapped his arms around his waist, and whispered, "Even the rain sounds softer here." Yibo turned, his voice low, "Because it's our place." That moment, simple, unguarded, was the kind of love story the cameras could never capture. The world kept spinning outside, with headlines and hashtags, but inside their little sanctuary, time slowed down. They cooked together, painted together, and sometimes just sat under the stars without saying a word. Their new home was more than a house. It was a retreat, a silent rebellion against the noise of fame, a declaration that peace was worth more than applause. As months passed, even their closest friends noticed the change. Xiao Zhan seemed lighter, his smile softer. Yibo, usually so reserved, carried an ease in his movements, a glow that only came from being truly content. When asked about what had changed, Xiao Zhan simply said in an interview, "I've learned to value quiet moments." Fans didn't realize it, but those quiet moments were the ones shared on that hillside home. Some say that late at night, if you were to pass by that hidden house, you'd hear faint laughter carried by the wind, the sound of two souls who found what they had been missing all along. Their love story isn't loud or scandalous. It's written in the silence of the countryside, in the soft light that spills through their window every morning. Whether they will ever reveal the truth to the world remains uncertain. But perhaps that's the beauty of it. Some stories are not meant for headlines. They are meant to be felt, quietly, deeply, and forever. So, the next time someone asks where Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo are, maybe the answer isn't a location. Maybe the answer is this: they are home, in a place built not from bricks, but from love, trust, and peace. And that, dear viewers, is the story of Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo's new home. A secret sanctuary of light and laughter, hidden from the noise of fame but forever shining in the hearts of those who believe in their bond. The morning light spilled through the tall glass windows of their new home, painting the wooden floor in gold. Outside, mist rose gently from the lake, and the only sound was the soft hum of nature waking up. Xiao Zhan stood by the window, wrapped in a loose white robe, a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. His eyes followed the ripples on the water, calm, endless, and free. This, he thought, was what peace truly felt like. Behind him, faint footsteps echoed. Wang Yibo appeared, half awake, hair messy and eyes still heavy with sleep. "You up early again," he murmured, his voice rough from the morning silence. Xiao Zhan turned with a soft smile. "Couldn't sleep. The view's too beautiful." Yibo walked closer, draping his arm lazily around Xiao Zhan's shoulders. "It's not the view," he said, smirking. "You just love watching me sleep." Their laughter broke the quiet, echoing through the open space of the house, a melody sweeter than any song. That morning marked another day in their quiet life, away from the eyes of the world. The two had slowly built a rhythm that only they understood. Xiao Zhan would start the day cooking breakfast, pancakes, eggs, and sometimes, his favorite, steamed buns. Yibo, on the other hand, wasn't much of a morning person. He'd drag himself into the kitchen, yawning, but he always ended up helping, flipping pancakes, tasting the batter, or just standing behind Xiao Zhan, arms around his waist, resting his chin on his shoulder. One day, while Xiao Zhan was trying to perfect a new recipe, Yibo decided to be mischievous. He snuck up behind him, dipped his finger in whipped cream, and smeared it across Xiao Zhan's cheek. "Yibo!" Xiao Zhan gasped, pretending to be angry, but before he could wipe it off, Yibo leaned in and kissed it away. The kitchen filled with laughter, the kind that bursts from the heart and lingers like sunlight. The afternoons were slower, almost dreamlike. Xiao Zhan loved sitting on the veranda with his sketchbook, drawing the scenery, the lake, the trees, sometimes a boar's profile as he practiced skating down the small ramp they'd built. Yibo, always full of energy, would zoom past him on his skateboard, the wind tugging at his hair, his laughter echoing across the field. "Don't fall this time," Xiao Zhan shouted playfully. "I never fall," Yibo yelled back, just before tumbling into the grass. Xiao Zhan ran over, laughing so hard he could barely speak. "Never fall," he teased, helping Yibo up. Yibo grinned, brushing the dirt from his hands. "Only when you're watching," he said, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Just the two of them, eyes locked, the world fading away. As evening approached, the house came alive with a different kind of magic. The golden sunset filtered through the trees, painting the walls in warm amber tones. Xiao Zhan would light candles around the living room, while Yibo played soft music on the piano. The sound was gentle, like a lullaby that carried stories of their journey, the struggles, the silence, the survival. Sometimes, Xiao Zhan joined in, humming softly beside him. One night, after dinner, it began to rain, a soft drizzle that soon turned into a heavy downpour. The sound of rain tapping against the windows filled the room. Yibo, restless as ever, opened the back door and stepped outside, letting the rain soak his hair and clothes. Xiao Zhan stood by the doorway, watching with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. "You'll catch a cold," he called out. Yibo looked back with that familiar mischievous grin. "Come on, Zhanji, live a little." Before Xiao Zhan could respond, Yibo grabbed his hand and pulled him into the rain. The cold water splashed against their skin, but they didn't care. They laughed, danced, and twirled around the garden like two kids who had just discovered freedom. Under the thunder's roar, they were untouchable, two souls alive in their own world. The rain slowed, and they stood there, breathless, dripping wet but glowing. Xiao Zhan looked up at the sky, eyes closed, smiling. "Yo crazy," he whispered. Yibo stepped closer, his voice low and teasing. "Maybe, but you love it." Xiao Zhan didn't answer. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes said everything. That night, they sat wrapped in blankets by the fireplace, sipping tea. The firelight danced across their faces, and for a long time, neither spoke. It was the kind of silence that felt full, comforting. Yibo finally broke it, his voice barely audible. "Do you ever miss it? The city, the noise, the lights?" Xiao Zhan thought for a moment, then smiled softly. "No, because everything I need is here." Yibo looked at him, eyes gentle, warm, and whispered, "Then I'll never let you go." Days like these became their routine, simple yet full of quiet joy. They built memories in every corner of that house, cooking disasters that turned into laughter, late-night talks on the rooftop under a million stars, playful arguments over who left the lights on. Their home wasn't just a place, it was a living memory of everything they fought for. Even their friends, when they occasionally visited, felt the peace that hung in the air. "You two have built something rare," one of them said. "It feels alive here." Xiao Zhan only smiled. He knew what that meant. Every wall, every room, held a story, laughter, love, and 1,000 unspoken promises. On clear nights, they'd sit outside with mugs of hot cocoa, watching the stars. Xiao Zhan would rest his head on Yibo's shoulder, whispering softly, "Do you think anyone knows about this place?" Yibo smiled, eyes fixed on the sky. "Let them wonder," he said. "Some things are meant to stay ours." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying their laughter across the hills. Somewhere, far from flashing cameras and gossip headlines, Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo had found what everyone searches for, a home that wasn't defined by walls or fame, but by the heartbeat of two people who chose peace over everything else. Every sunrise brought new moments, new laughter, new love. And though the world might never truly see the full story of what they built together, those who believe in their bond could feel it, like a secret melody, soft and eternal. Because home isn't a place, it's a feeling. And for Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo, it's a feeling they created, together. Sparkles, if you love this continuation, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps the magic alive. And there's so much more to come about this heart-melting journey of Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo. Stay tuned. The next chapter will take your breath away.